Thank you so much for such warmth and generosity that's shown to me. And my heartiest greetings to the Indian Community School, Kuwait. Thank you so much, Dr. Binamun, Dr. Rajesh, and the stars of today, the young and energetic and vibrant students and their families and the teachers of the Indian Community School, Kuwait family. And I'm indeed privileged and honored to be a part of your family, albeit for these few minutes today. And what wonderful way to start this event. There is no better way than to start it off by music, isn't it? And thank you so much for that mellifluous music. And when I listened to that, I was reminded of this very famous saying from the book The Art of War by Sun Tzu that says, there are not more than 5 musical notes, yet the combination of these 5 give rise to melodies that can ever be heard. There are not more than 5 primary colors, yet in the combination they produce more hues than can ever be seen. There are not more than 5 cardinal tastes, yet combinations of them yield more flavors than can ever be tasted. I'm certain that all of us can relate to these 3 analogies that is drawn in the book. And definitely, this applies to all of us because we are not just 5 in number. I can see that the participants already has crossed 950 on this day. And I know that your strength lies in your diversity. And it's the combinations and the permutations of the traits and characteristics and qualities and abilities in each one of you, which is going to work magic in the lives of each one of you, as well as in the lives of the people around you, making the world a better place to live in. And today, when we celebrate National Youth Day, in memory of the great inspiration for youth ever, Swami Vivekananda, I would be remiss if I do not share with you a personal experience that I have in the memories and in the experiences that I have had in reading about Swami Vivekananda. When I was in school, when I was of your age, I think when I was in class 9, we had a textbook, which was the life story, which was a biography of Swami Vivekananda. It was a Malayalam second paper textbook. I remember reading that textbook with much interest, and more than that, much more emotional attachment. When we were taught the first chapter in that book in the class, I promptly came back home and started reading the textbook back to back. Did not wait for the next few chapters to be taught at school, because I was so drawn to this great personality's life, whom I had heard about before, whom I would have had, glimpses of his quotes or pictures from various sources. Those were the days when internet was not yet available. So I do belong to the older generation, if you may call so. So though I had had limited exposure at that point of time to Swami Vivekananda's life and teachings, it was when I grabbed this textbook in my hand that the entirety of his personality impressed me in such an overwhelming fashion. And let me cut the long story short. I can keep going on and on about this experience, I think, though it actually lasted only for 2 days, because it took me 2 days to finish reading that textbook. And I remember the second day evening, when I was sobbing uncontrollably in my room, my father came to me and hugged me and asked, "What happened to you? Why are you sobbing?" And the girl of all of 14 years of age at that point of time, I think, I was sobbing uncontrollably because I had reached that chapter in the book where Swami Vivekananda's Samadhi was being described. And I could somehow no longer take the fact that I would not be able to read any more of his life. I share this with you for the very reason that it is only natural and befitting that a personality like him be modeled and celebrated as the youth icon. So if any of you have not read and gone through his biography and his life, here is my clarion call to you. Please go and read up. And I promise it is going to be a highly fulfilling experience. For there is something for everybody in his life and his teachings. And though that was the first book I read back to back, several other books followed on his life and teachings, which wiped away my tears. And I'm certain that there are plenty of books more awaiting people like us, readers like us, to go and take a peek into his life and his teachings. I'm certain that this day, all of you would be bombarded with lots of quotes and lots of inspirational stories, because it is, after all, the day to celebrate the iconic personality and to take a leaf from his life's chapters. Let me share with you one of my favorite quotes, which has kept me going forever. And what did I imbibe from the essence of his life and his biography? I'm not going to give a long lecture to you. I would rather just share some of my experiences as I just did, which you might be able to connect with and which you might come across in your life as you move ahead. So when I was preparing for civil services, so this was my next, sort of juncture or interface with Swami Vivekananda's teachings. The first one I already mentioned to you when I was a schoolgirl. And when I was preparing for civil services, as you would know, it is a long drawn process. The examination process itself takes around a year to complete, as it's done in 3 different stages. And then you have your preparatory days as well. So that period of time requires a lot of perseverance and persistence, if nothing else. And there was one quote of Swami Vivekananda that had found a place permanently on my study room's wall, which was, I'm sure all of you can guess, arise, awake, and stop not till the goal is reached. Arise, awake, and stop not till the goal is reached. I'm sure these are simple words, but probably some of the most inspiring and meaningful words ever said on this earth by anybody. And trust me, every day when I would wake up to these words, it would sprinkle a new lease of life into my day. It would add that much needed sparkle to my day. It would light up any darkness that might have stayed along from the previous night onto the day. Now, just reading or just listening or just, grasping the quotes or grasping a few words is definitely not going to inspire anybody. I'm certain about that. So what would truly inspire you? As I said, when I read the textbook, obviously there were many other textbooks to read, right? Now, why did I get drawn to this one particular book? Or why did I get drawn to this person's life? The more you invest yourself in something, the more you reap out of it. When you read something, if you can invest yourself completely, if you can immerse yourself soulfully in that particular activity, you will definitely reap a lot more than a regular reader would. Now, this applies not only for reading, this applies for every single activity. As I said, there is no point just, putting out a poster in your room. unless you invest yourself in that and you grasp the true essence of it and apply it onto your life. Now, that is one message which I would want you to take away with you today. As young children, as students, I'm certain that your exposures and opportunities that's being provided by your wonderful school, your friends, and your families is limitless. Especially today in this techno-savvy era, knowledge and information is at your fingertips. Opportunities are at your doorsteps. All that you need to do is to assimilate the right knowledge for the right opportunity and utilize it. But what is going to make you stand out is what I mentioned in the beginning, which is to invest yourself considerably in your activity and immerse yourself soulfully in that particular activity, whatever it may be. Fall in love with what you're doing. And that is what is going to make you stand out from the crowd. And that is what is going to take you a much longer way than everyone else. But as much as it's important to stand out and to walk the longer mile, it is also equally important to make sure that you carry everybody along with you. And once you've reached that stage where you're confident and secure in yourself, you will have absolutely no qualms about carrying other people along with you. Because nobody is your competitor in this world. You are your own competitor. Now, I would again want to quote Swami Vivekananda here, who says, the great secret of true success, of true happiness is this. The great secret of true success or true happiness is this. The man or woman who asks for no return. The perfectly unselfish person is the most successful. The man or woman who asks for no return. The perfectly unselfish person is the most successful. Again, as I said, it's easy to say or to memorize or to quote these words. But trust me, it is incredibly difficult to live your life in this way. But try it for once. I'm certain that it's not just success and happiness, but it's the sense of purpose of your life that you discover and that immense fulfillment that you gain from being unselfish. I'm telling you this from my personal experience now, because I think I truly learned what selflessness means when my little son spelled magic on me, making me a mother. I'm certain that all parents out there, especially mothers out there, will agree with me when I say that I find motherhood to be a definition of selflessness. An adorable son, all of 1.5 years of age, I can see how I put him in front of everything else, how I put him and his health and happiness in front of me. It is selflessness in action, day in and day out. And when I try to apply this at work, when I try to apply this quality onto everything else that I do, I realize that the joy that one gets, the fulfillment that one gets out of this is definitely much better than anything else I have ever experienced in my life. And as a person who has received so much, so generously from the people around me, and when I say received, I do not mean material possessions. I mean all the intangible resources of guidance, of values, of teachings, of lessons, of experiences, of joy, of sorrow from the people around me, especially from my family and my teachers and my mentors, to whom I'm incredibly beholden to. I find that when I start giving to the rest of the world, it is my way of saying thank you to everybody who has given me generously, including all of you who have showered me with such generous words. And as Swami Vivekananda rightly says, ask for nothing, ask for no return, focus on giving, and you will get it back someday, but do not bother about it now. That is the kind of practical wisdom that he always gives. Ask for nothing, expect nothing in return. You focus on giving. You're going to get it back someday from somewhere, but do not bother about it today. And that is what is going to make you a much more joyful person when you start giving. And joining the dots to what I said right in the beginning about music, about the art of war, about how 5 musical notes or 7 musical notes, if we don't render to each other, if we don't attend to each other, if we don't cooperate with each other, if we don't give each other generously, we cannot make truly winning combinations in this world. And what better time to talk about giving and caring about each other than now, when the whole world is in the grip of a pandemic. Though all of us have had very unique experiences and difficulties sailing through this pandemic, as we still are grappling with certain problems, I think there is one cardinal lesson that all of us have understood and taken away from this pandemic. Let me spell it out for you. COVID-19 pandemic, if nothing else, has taught us that the health and well-being of the other is as important or even more important than my own. For I know that my family, my friends, my colleagues, the society around me, my state, my country, why not the whole world, needs to be freed from this pandemic for me to be certain that I would not be prey to it. So this is an instant in the history of human race where we have actually understood that it's important to ensure that the health and well-being of the other is as important or more important than my own. And this applies not just for the COVID pandemic or the health and well-being, but for the happiness and for the progress of our society as a whole. If we can take this lesson and apply it onto every sector of our life, if we can apply it to every walk of our life and make sure that we give generously and care for each other, stay assured that it'll all come back to you in a way much bigger and better than what you ever imagined. But do not bother about it or do not focus on it right now. Focus on the joy of giving, for that is unparalleled joy. And as we care for each other and as we follow the safety precautions during this COVID-19 pandemic, we have learned to give and care for each other's health and well-being. Let us not forget these lessons as we move ahead when we come out of the deadly grips of this pandemic. Let's try and apply to other walks of our lives. Especially when I realize that I'm talking to young students, I'm certain that all of you are highly tech-savvy people, much more than I am, or probably your teachers or your parents are. So when you enter the world of social media or the virtual world of communication in general, I think it's important to keep this in your mind, that you care for each other and you give each other generously, and not spread hate and mischiefs and pranks across social media. I'm certain that I don't need to give you this piece of advice because, I'm certain that all of you would have already learned how to utilize social media properly. But I would be remiss if I do not mention this when I'm talking to a bunch of young tech-savvy students out there. Let me try and explain where I'm coming from. There was a time when we used to write letters in longhand and send it across by post and wait for the response to come back. A reply letter to come probably in a week or two or a month or so. I still cherish some of those letters written by my friends. We had a lot of patience in doing that, in writing the letters in longhand and sending it across, taking the effort, and in waiting for a response over weeks, probably, or months sometimes even. Today, when we send a message by WhatsApp, and if the settings are right, if you see the blue tick at the other end, which means that the person has already viewed your message, and you don't get a response back, say in 5 seconds or 10 seconds, you're already rattled. Now, this applies not just to students, but to all of us. We have somehow lost that kind of patience that we used to have when we used to write letters. Today, when we get onto social media and start browsing through pictures of our friends and our family and probably, even strangers for that matter, there is that longing for seeing how the picture has come out when we used to take pictures using our regular cameras, which was not digital then. Somebody would click your picture and then you need to take the negative and then you need to take a print out of it to see how you look even. Today, you can take your own selfies and apply lots of filters to it and start projecting yourself the way you want to the rest of the world. I sometimes wonder if this obsession with trying to make ourselves appear good, appear beautiful in front of others has somehow made us lose the game of trying to appreciate the true beauty of each other. I would like to call this generation a selfie generation sometimes. Because very often, we all tend to look at ourselves, our appearances, our outer appearances, than look inward into us or even look at the other person who is next to us. Now, when I say we, I include myself in that. All of us are probably victims of the selfie generation phenomenon. So it is not about taking the picture. It is not just about taking the selfie that I'm talking about. It is also about how we are obsessed with ourselves in today's age and era, and how we yearn to probably get a thumbs up or a like or a heart from as many people as possible on social media when we post our pictures. And the kind of techniques and the kind of filters and the masks that we use in order to amass these likes. It's all fine when it's just fun. But when it becomes an obsession, and when you actually start applying the same formula on your life, then we are probably somewhere losing sight of the way ahead. And that's the only thing I would want you to be careful about as you go ahead. Remember that it's important that you also look at and appreciate the beauty of each other and accept the flaws and imperfections in each other when you render to each other and make those winning combinations. Of course, I don't mind, all of us taking selfies, but it's important that we look into ourselves beyond our outer appearances that the selfies show. And it is important that we have the strength to show our true selves to the rest of the world outside and accept each other and cooperate with each other in order to make those winning combinations. So when I talked about Swami Vivekananda asking and exhorting the youth to give generously and expect nothing in return, it's this that I would want you to take away from today's event. Whether it be in virtual world, whether it be in real world, it's important that you start giving generously and caring for each other generously. And trust me, that will take you a long way than anything else you may ever do. When I was in school, in Scouts and Guides, there was this little activity that was a part of our regular profile. It was something very, very elemental, I would say. It was to keep a good deed diary. Now, good deed diary is nothing but, do something good every day. Help somebody, try and be good to somebody. Something as simple as, I'm talking about, class 2, class 3 times. So something as simple as, giving your eraser to your friend who requires one, or, sharing your lunch with someone, or, helping someone cover their books with brown paper. Or something, it could be something small, it could be something life-saving, that's up to you. But do something good every day to somebody else and write it down. It could be a human being that you are helping out, it could be nature, you could just plant a tree, you could water the plants, and that could be a good deed as well, right? So do something every day and write it down. So this seems like a very simple activity and task, right? But when you actually do it, I think I did it for around a month. And at the end of 1 month, when you share it with others, or even better, when you share it with yourself, when you look at it and read it and assimilate it yourself, you suddenly, you're overwhelmed by the fact that you're actually capable of doing so much good to so many people around you. And the very realization actually propels you to do more good, So it kind of becomes addictive in itself. And you start doing that over and over again. And you realize that that is probably the most fulfilling thing you could ever do in your life. So, if you want to try it personally. It's not to show anybody else. It is not for a scorecard, but it's just for yourself, to try and understand and rekindle all that goodness within you, which you can actually spread and help make the world a better place to be in. So thank you so much once again for this wonderful opportunity to interact with you all, to spend some time with this amazing Indian Community School Kuwait family. And I sincerely hope and pray that each one of you out there walk the path in the most generous and caring fashion ever, carrying along the people around you and nature around you, and make those winning combinations. Give generously, ask nothing for return. It'll come back to you, but do not bother about it now. Okay? Thank you so much once again. All the best for all your endeavors. Namaste.
Oh, thank you, ma'am, for those profound words. I will now hand over the reins to Kristen, who will be taking care of your queries and questions regarding this session. Over to you.
Thank you, Sabah. Thank you, ma'am, for that vibrant session. Dear all, Dr. Divya S. Iyer, IAS, is here to answer all your queries. So I kindly request everyone to pose your questions in the chat. Okay, ma'am. Here's our first question. I admire to be a civil servant. Before civil service exam, I would like to take doctorate and then to civil servant. So what are all the process that I need to get on to? Could you please explain?
Ma'am, kindly unmute, madam. Can you kindly unmute, madam?
Yeah, sorry. I think, Sri Lakshmi, that's a session in itself. But I would just like to give you a few pointers as to what needs to be done. I think currently what you can do is to definitely, focus on your goals and move ahead. Again, for being a civil servant, the primary requirement is to be aware of everything that's going around you, what is happening in the society, what's happening to people around you. Try and understand, the crisis, the problems that are going around the world. Try and understand people's lives around you. That's the aptitude that you can actually garner right now in your school days, and update yourself on current affairs, and definitely go as per your plan. If you want to take doctorate and then get into civil services. But also I would say, be open to your dreams. If you think that you want to change path at some point of time, don't be harsh on yourself. When you're taking a doctorate, you might just fall in love with that subject and you might want to become a research scientist at that point. And that's perfectly fine. You can do justice to every opportunity that you get on the way. I firmly believe that it's the path that matters more than the end. So, that's actually why we named our book Pathfinder. It is, the goals may be the same, but the paths are very, very different for each person. And that path and the experiences that we have alongside is what makes us truly unique and successful.
Thank you, ma'am. Here's a slightly youthful question. Ma'am, can you please explain the meaning of life according to your point of view?
Okay, I think that is a very profound question. To me, life is all about harmony. It is about how harmoniously can you live with what is within you and what is around you. The moment you find that harmony between yourself and the people around you, and the work that you do, and the nature around you and the world that you live in, the moment you find that harmony, everything else falls in place, and you experience that sense of peace and inner calm within you. And I think the purpose of life is all about finding that harmony and trying to fine tune the strings within you, and trying to gather the energy from the world around you to achieve that harmony in life. So, yeah, to me, if I have to say in one word, the purpose of life is to find that harmony.
Ma'am, there's a question. The students are asking, ma'am, but nowadays people will judge you if you aren't there in Instagram or the social media. Then if you choose to not join, people are going to make fun of you and think that you're in cool. At that time, what should you do? I think this question is related to all the youth. They all have the same question. Can you please explain, ma'am?
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's a very practical problem that's being posed, and I was, I was victim to it myself at some point of time. So I am not live on Facebook or on Instagram. I do not have an active social media presence. My office has where the official messages go out, or the official whatever communication has to goes out. But on a personal front, I do not have a personal Facebook page or an Instagram page. I think it's been a decade since I have not had a Facebook page. So I did face some of this, sort of judgmental comments and remarks in the beginning. But as time passes by, people definitely understand that there is more to life than Facebook or Instagram. But I'm not against anybody using it. It is up to your personal interest. And the very fact that, we can give each other that personal space to be present or not present in one particular social media platform, I think says how mature we are as a society. So don't worry about it if people judge you. I know that it is difficult. in the beginning, but as time passes by, I'm certain that your friends and your family and anybody who actually throws those unruly remarks, that you will understand that there is a reason for what you do and why you're doing it. And it's also essential to understand that you need not take everybody's comments and remarks to heart. People who matter to you will definitely understand and respect your choice and your privacy. So you have to stick to your guns. You have to do what your heart says, and this is not to say that if there is an official communication coming from your school on some platform, you shall not listen to it because you're not on it. So this is on a personal choice that I'm talking about. You can always choose to be on a virtual platform or not. And I remember one of my friends telling me that if you're not on Facebook, you don't exist in your friend circle. That it's come to that in his life. That's what he was telling me. But he did survive that, and so have I. I have also survived it. And as I said, it's been a decade since I have not been on Facebook, and I don't think I've missed out on life much. My life was more colorful than I ever imagined. So that's my 2 cents to you on that. But definitely, I'm sure you'll find your own ways of dealing with that problem, because these are practical issues that come up day in and day out, and we find our own unique solutions to these. But the only one thing I have to tell you is, do not take everybody's unruly comments and criticisms to heart. It is about the discernment that you exercise as to who is important to you and who's not, whose comments have a place in your heart and whose comments should not. So yeah, that's it.
Thank you very much,
Thank you.
ma'am. Ma'am, one more question I'd like to ask you here. This is from students. I think every student has the question in their mind. The question is, ma'am, my ambition is to be something else, but my parents and elders advise some other profession. What should I do? Can you please guide, ma'am?
Yep. Again, very practical question. I'm glad that you asked me this. See, as I said, for the first question that was asked regarding becoming a civil servant, all of us at some point of time would dream of, say, becoming a pilot, or say becoming Sachin Tendulkar, or becoming an actor, or all of us want to do something big in life at some point of time. And we all know that as children, our ambitions keep changing and they keep evolving, right? I would say, do not restrict yourself to one, ambition just because you thought of it at some point of time. If you want to veer away from it during your school days. That's the time when you can actually experiment with things. That's the time when you need to explore the world around you and explore your own, interests and attitude. Be open to your goals and ambitions at this point of time. Sometimes we as children have this tendency to outrightly reject anything that our parents or our family tell us at some point of time. Do not reject it only because they have told you. Reject it if you truly don't like it. Okay? So the reason for rejecting should be very clear to you. That is what I would want to tell you. Just because somebody else is giving you a suggestion or a recommendation or an advice to choose something, do not reject it only because that person is saying it. Okay? Reject it because you truly do not want it. If that is the case, then fine. But I would say at your age, it is best that you keep your options open and cultivate your interest in something which you truly love. If your parents, if your family, if your teachers are helping you find that passion and find that area where you would truly immerse yourself soulfully, as I had mentioned, well and good, you're truly lucky. Now, if the people around you are trying to distract you from what you really want to immerse yourself soulfully in, try to ask yourself whether you actually love what you're going to do, or whether you actually love your choice. If you're certain that you're in love with your choice, I think you should go ahead with it. But there is no harm in exploring other options which are presented to you by other people. Whatever you do, do it for the right reason. That is the only advice I would want to give. Whether you choose, your profession of choice, whether you choose somebody else's advice, do it for the right reasons. And that reason should be that you're completely in love with that choice. Okay.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you very much. Can you please recommend some books for the youth? That's the question from a student.
Again, I think, reading is something which has been completely fluid in my life. I would probably share with you some of my favorite books rather than recommend, a reading list to you. I'm sure there are plenty of reading lists that's available on the internet. If you just Google, there are hundreds and thousands of inspirational books out there, and I'm sure many of you would have read many of them as well. So again, choose what you really love, and when you pick up a book, I get a sense of connect with the book. Something like the Sixth Sense. It is kind of inexplicable. You get a connect with the book when you open it, when you start reading it, and then you would want to invest yourself in it so much that you kind of become one with the book, and then you pick up the essence, you imbibe the essence from the book in a very seamless fashion, and that shows out in your daily life and your activity. That is that process that needs to happen when you read the book. It is not about the book, it is not about the author, it is not about it's not about the words, it is about that experience as a whole. From the moment you pick that book, you connecting to what is in it, and you imbibing the essence, and you actually applying it in your daily life. So, whichever book you choose, make sure that happens, and choose the books where you think you can make that happen. So that would be my generic advice. I think some of my favorite books, one book which has incredibly influenced me is The Prophet by Khalil Gibran. And, that's sort of a Bible for me. Every time at a juncture in life when I need to look at something, when I need to turn to a book, probably that's the book I turn to. Gitanjali by Rabindranath Tagore is another such book, which is like a storehouse of wisdom. There is again Swami Vivekananda's biography. There are lots of versions of his biographies. I think the first one I read was after that textbook I mentioned. I read this book by R.C. Majumdar on Swami Vivekananda, and there are several other books on Swami Vivekananda. So that is again any version is fine as long as you can connect to it completely. So those are three books offhand I can tell you which has really influenced me a lot as a person when I have grown up during my school days and my college days. I think these three were authors that really influenced me. Viktor Frankl, The Meaning of Life is another book, which is a very short, very small book, but it's a powerhouse, as you say. Then, I think these are some of the books that Jonathan Livingston Seagull is another book, which really, helped me pick me up from the ashes, to rise from the ashes. Every time I have met with failure, books like that, say Jonathan Livingston Seagull, or Who Moved My Cheese. These are these really tiny books, probably highly commercialized books also, which has sold like over 1 million copies across the world and all. But at some points of time, when you need that little pop in your life, when you're really down and out, sometimes these kind of books really help. They may not be the most profound books like The Prophet, but it's okay to read these smaller books also, or things which are not very profound, which might be formulaic, in its sense, but these are also fine. So I have read books from that end, which is The Prophet, to this end, which is Who Moved My Cheese, and all of them have helped me at some points of time in life. It's like having food. You can't really have the same kind of food throughout, right? You need variety in your food also. Sometimes there are times when you yearn for some bit of junk food. There are times when you really yearn for comfort food and soulful food. There are times when you need a feast. There are times when you just need a dessert. So books are like that for me. So these are some of my recommendations, I would say, but definitely I think you should choose your own menu for the books.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you very much. Now there's a question from our students. Could you please share some of your experiences as an IAS officer?
Oh, again, that is a session in itself. I really don't know where to start and where to end. But, generally, I think this has been, again, another highly fulfilling profession for me, because every day has been so different, and every day so far in these 6 years of my life, no single day has actually been like the previous day. There is so much variety, there is so much of opportunities, there are so many instances to to exercise your problem solving skills. There are so many opportunities to be a good team member, to be a good leader. More importantly, anything that you do, you know that this is going to impact the lives of, hundreds or thousands or lakhs of people out there. And that, that aspect of the job where you know that you are caring for others and you're doing this, which is going to touch the lives of others, I think that is the most fulfilling aspect of my job. And just to leave you with one little example, during the COVID times, we in Mahatma Gandhi National Rural Employment Guarantee Scheme here in the mission, we were actually able to provide jobs to lakhs of people in the state of Kerala. To be precise, over 20 lakhs of individuals have worked with us in the mission. And each one of them have received their wages on time, even during the lockdown and the restrictions and all the chaos and the constraints that were imposed upon us for health and safety reasons. This is one scheme, or this is one mission which has actually proved to be a pillar for the rural households in our state and across the country, in fact. So, just to give you the magnitude of what I'm talking, over 20 lakh people have worked with us. We've had even, people who have returned from the Gulf, including your country, who have come back here because they were rendered jobless there, and they have joined our scheme and restored, what I would like to call as dignity of labor. They have come and started working for us and doing manual labor, not just to earn a living, but to ensure that their families are secure. And I think that is the kind of fulfillment that you get when you hear the stories and when you listen to real life experiences from the field. So we have actually brought in amount to the tune of 2,700 crores to the state of Kerala just during this COVID season as wages for our people who have worked under our scheme. So that is the that's the magnitude of work that I'm talking about. And what could be more fulfilling than realizing that there are 20 lakh families out there who are better off today because they've come for work, which has been facilitated by you. So that's the kind of experiences that I would want to talk about. But there are lots to talk about. I would not go into the details. I think if there are no more questions, we can close for now. Is that okay?